Alright guys, so we are back again for another Should You Guys Summon. So this time around we are taking a look at the Super Limited DO, and then we have Paptimus Scirocco. So in terms of whether or not you guys want to summon on this unit, I feel like it's another hot take on my end. I feel like it's probably a skip because this unit outright does not perform anywhere else besides this week's clan battle specifically, and then maybe just in arena in general, and that's it. I'm gonna quickly show you guys a screenshot of how this unit is doing in this week's or this 2 weeks period raid battle. It did pitiful. All right, we have a lot of evasion in this unit. This unit excels in evasion, but we still managed to not do any good. We still managed not to survive. All right, so this unit, I'm just gonna say hot take, outright pretty bad for general content. So if you are looking for a unit that you can potentially use for a long term for future events or whatever, I feel like this unit will probably struggle and not meet a lot of people's expectation. And then if you are someone that really needs a new tank unit, you want a quote-unquote exclusive limited unit for a tank, by all means be my guest, go for it. But if you guys are someone that wants a unit that can, perform in multiple content, not just this week's Sun battle, not just only for arena, I feel like you guys are still in good hands. Continue to save up your diamonds for future release unit, because I'm just gonna express this once again, this is just not that unit. And we can go over the whole kit, which I have already done like a showcase of this unit from, well, you guys are not seeing it yet, but you guys will see it probably in a few days from now. So I done it from basically nothing, potential 0, no transcendent skill, and this unit was just not really like a tank. It was so squishy, like I thought I was using like one of those generic units or one of those raid unit where we just die right out the bat. So we were just gonna start from the top, and then I'll just kind of point out things where I feel like this portion is not really that good. So starting up with this stat, obviously being a tank, I do take a look at the stat a little bit more carefully, because this is where the unit is gonna make a break, whether or not you're gonna survive or not. So 95k plus or minus right now, we are at level 112. I think that is definitely a respectable number, so that's actually pretty good. Defensive numbers, I think that's where they belongs, and then the reduced projectile and reduced beam, I think that looks fairly decent as well. So in terms of just the basic parameter wise, I think it looks alright. I don't think there's anything I need to nitpick about. Look at the EX skill, we have the hidden arm barrage at level 5 to one target enemy, deal 1385 damage, and the status is unavoidable, deal another 701 attack damage. So how this actually works, I know in terms of the kit, it does have that unavoidable status inflicted as well. But for my testing of it, you need another unit to apply that status for you. Then you can take advantage of that additional damage. I thought, since this unit was already doing it, it should be able to, self-provide that status, but it doesn't. So kind of unfortunate, right? Because you are, essentially would be able to do 2000 damage, which is pretty good enough. In terms of arena wise, you would be able to probably one-shot an enemy, presumably. But in terms of general content, even though we are getting a massive percentage in terms of the EX skill effects, well, ultimately it does not really amount to too much damage, so that's kind of unfortunate. We will skip the transcendent skill, we will come to that in just a little bit. So in terms of the skill one, when battle begins, increase the evasion by 10%. I wish that was at least like a 15%. I think 15% would probably be at a better ground, but 10% nonetheless, we still at least have something. And then on evasion for 10 seconds, increase beam damage by 17%, stacking up to 5 times. So that in total equates up to 80% if you are able to max that out. So that's actually pretty nice. And then on evasion, we cover 6% EX skill gauge, so that is actually really good. A lot of these units that has ways to recover the EX skill gauge amounts to higher EX skill damage, but unfortunately this is not one of those units that would, unless you're talking about arena. Looking at this skill 2, we have unlocked strong attack and beam rifle, and then on evasion we cover 764 HP. Again, that's also a really nice ability to have, even though the HP recovery, you guys can definitely argue, is pretty low, but if you are consistently evading, that is actually going to be really helpful. And then on taking damage for 10 seconds, increase evasion by 5%, stacking up to 5 times. So this is going to be the portion where I feel like this unit kind of lags around, because when we do take a look at the grand scheme of things, we are getting 10% from the skill 1, and then you're expecting me to take damage then gain that. Like, from my testing of it, if the O does get, let's say, if the O does get, let's say, focus a lot, you will probably not even dodge, and you will probably not even recover enough HP to save yourself. So at the end of the day, this is a unit that needs high maintenance and whatsoever to be good. Like, it's not going to be a unit that you can pull, upgrade it, and use it. It's probably not going to work, because you will probably not make it. And then worst thing is, if you don't have the Transcendent skill, it's actually worse, because Transcendent skill at max out is giving you an additional 25% literally for just being there. So without the Transcendent skill, I feel like it is going to be a little bit harder. You only get the Transcendent skill starting at Transcendent level 3, so it's definitely quite an investment to get into. So that's pretty unfortunate. So looking at the weaponry, they are pretty basics. They have beam rifle, beam saber, and then the strong attack beam rifle. The thing I do want to make a note of is the attack count. Since this unit, you can kind of say heavily relies on the EX skill to apply the unavoidable status. If you are missing a shot, you are probably not really gaining a lot of EX skill gauge unless you are heavily relying on the skill 1. So when you guys are trying to build up this unit, for example, I would definitely recommend going high on the accuracy, so you can always land your hit, so you can always increase your EX skill gauge. But other than that, I think that's pretty much it. The problem definitely lies around the fact that this unit by itself without the Transcendent skill does not have enough evasion, or it does have the evasion, but I just don't like the fact that you have to take hit to proctor them. That is definitely really counterintuitive, and then by the time you are able to stack up to 5 times or whatever, you lose them because you probably have gone by 10 seconds already without noticing, and then well, there goes all the stacks. So kind of, I don't know, it's just not, I feel like it wasn't designed properly. You know, in terms of the global meta, it just isn't all that great, right? Without the Transcendent skill, the O is probably not functional. I'm just gonna say that. Alright, in terms of Paptimus Scirocco, he is actually really good. Even if you don't use Scirocco in a tank or whatever, when we do take a look at both skill 1's effects, they both are green. So you can probably use this on other green unit, like for a unit that is able to do range sense, you know, range specifically. I think it's actually going to be really powerful. So on activated EX skill for 10 seconds, you do gain range sense up by 69%. So that's actually pretty nice, definitely pretty good. And on evasion for 10 seconds, increase range sense by 6%, stacking up to 5 times. So up to 30% in total. That's really, really good. And then besides that, on skill 2, we are increasing reaction, so that's the ability to either guard or evade, so that's actually really nice. And then increasing evasion by 12% when this is a rival unit. So new time machine, rival unit, those are the kind of like the tags to kind of look out for. But other than that, I do feel like Scirocco is definitely a really solid pilot. If you are able to pull the pilot, or if you are wondering whether or not you want to go for this pilot, I think it's still a good option. Even if you don't have the O, you can still kind of put this pilot onto other green specific element units, and I think it will still kind of shine for sure. But other than that, I think that is pretty much it. It's just unfortunate. I do feel like the O is kind of underwhelming in terms of when I use it. Maybe it's kind of like a skill issue, I don't know, but I feel like it's not as a threat as it was for a JP, probably. I don't know, but you guys can definitely let me know how you guys feel about the O. Do you guys think it's a unit that you guys will kind of go ham into, or it's probably going to be a unit that you guys would just probably kind of skip or whatever? But other than that, that's going to be pretty much it for me, and I'll be catching you guys all on the next one.